Hey Raghunath, tell everyone about our Patreon community.
Sure, Kastuba. The Wisdom of the Sages Patreon community is an incredible online yoga resource. If you like the type of yoga wisdom and culture we share on the show, then our Patreon community is a great next step. This is a listener-supported podcast, and any level of sponsorship will unlock a wide range of live and archived classes, talks, and even workshops.
Raghunath teaches, I teach, and we have a host of other excellent teachers on topics ranging from yoga philosophy, asana classes, storytelling, Ayurveda, kirtan, cooking, meditation, and a lot more.
We even have an incredible online Bhakti 12-step recovery group.
So if you want to check it out, go to patreon.com/wisdom of the sages.
All right, let's get it on.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Live from Super Soul Farm, this is Wisdom of the Sages, a daily yoga podcast with your host, Raghunath, and our co-host and senior educator at the Bhakti Center, New York, Kastuba Das, is in transit, coming from Mayapur to New York. He's probably landing right about now-ish, and he'll be back with us tomorrow. Looking forward to that. Welcome to the show, everybody. Welcome to Walk on Wednesday. Walk on Wednesday is when we take someone from our community, we introduce them publicly to the community for about 10 minutes, get to know them, get to know their story. But before we do that, lovely Mara's here with some announcements for today.
Good morning. We have Back to Recovery group meetings at 1 and 9:30 p.m. Eastern time today. And then Jiva G is offering a free webinar this Saturday at 1 p.m. on what the 12 steps are and how they relate to Bhakti. You can DM Back to Recovery group on Instagram to get more info and the link for that.
Excited for that. And Jiva G will also be joining us with the Bhakti Recovery in Italy for our third annual Italy Wisdom of the Sages pilgrimage. I'm going to be there. Mara's going to be there. Kastuba's going to be there. We have Bhakti Recovery group meetings. We travel to beautiful exotic places. We dive in the sea. We visit ancient towns, and we sing a lot, and we eat wonderful food. And we just get to know each other, which is really wonderful and powerful. And it's all with this beautiful backdrop of the Tuscan hills in this Villa Vrindavan ashram. They have a beautiful temple there. We go to the Sunday feast there. It's a great trip. If you're interested, go to wisdomofthesages.com/events, and you got to register quick because this thing fills up. All right. Let's get Page Family Bhakti as our guest. Welcome to the show, you guys. Jennifer Page and Krishna Das. Welcome, guys. Can we hear you?
Yes, we're so happy to be here. Thank you so much for inviting us. And this is just such a joy.
Now, Krishna Das, I'm going to ask you first because you sort of very gradually, maybe not gradually, maybe abruptly got into Bhakti, but you were already married. And you weren't, when you got married, you weren't into Krishna consciousness. How did you spring that one on your newlywed?
I don't know. I think slowly. That's how it. I in 2013, actually it was about 10 years ago, March of 2013, I had the opportunity to donate my kidney to my mother, and that's an essential part of the story because for the next few days, I basically had to stay in bed and recover. And Daft Punk had just come out with an album, Random Access Memories. And I knew that I'd heard that term before, but I wasn't sure where. So I was just, I did a lot of Google searching, listening to stuff on YouTube, because that's about all I could do. And so I typed in ROM, the acronym for Random Access Memories.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, that was it.
Watch out when you start searching ROM.
My life was over. So I hit search and up popped this lecture by a man named Ram Dass. And I thought, well, this doesn't seem like what I was looking for, but it's one of those things that just looked interesting. So I clicked on it, and he told the story of how he met his guru, Neem Karoli Baba. And in that moment, I went from being more or less agnostic to just knockout punch, fully believing in God. It was the most, it happened within seconds, because I thought, this is the most amazing story I've ever heard. And there's no way I can make sense of this story other than to believe that something higher is going on here. So that kickstarted a quest for me where I wanted to know more. I wanted to know what was happening. So that's when I found Bhagavad Gita, and I found some local devotees, and that's when I started getting into Krishna consciousness. And shortly after that is when I came to Krishna West. And to go back to your original question, how did I spring this on my wife? It's when you come to this process, when you're already in marriage, it's an interesting situation. It's an interesting situation being in a Western culture where a lot of people might not know this process. And maybe you come to it when you're already in a marriage. You have family that might not understand. We have to have ways of navigating that. And Krishna West gave me those tools, because the main aspect of Krishna West is paying a little less attention to the external details and more emphasis on the ideas of Bhakti Yoga. Considering time, place, and circumstance, and giving you a chance to fit in while taking the essential parts of our practice. And so that allowed me to kind of bleed it into my life under the radar a little bit, in a way that kind of allowed me to, we had 2 kids at the time, or one, another one was on the way. But that allowed me to just kind of drip it in slowly. And then that's
the slow drip. You got Krishna Wested, Jen Page. You got Krishna Wested.
That's kind of the quick version of how I got into it. And that's
and Jen, did you notice anything different around the house? Was he leaving like higher taste books around the house and journey of self-discoveries?
Well, I joke that it was under my nose for so many years. And we had Krishna around, we had pictures, bead bags and all these things. And
clickers. Why are there so many clickers in this house all of a sudden?
Oh, right. He's got his clicker right there. And it's so interesting for so long. It was just in my mind, his thing, because I grew up in a Jewish family, and I was really, honestly, just so afraid of disappointing them or having them, not understand. And so I think I just had my guard up for so long. And then really it was a year ago that he started this book club. And I said,
Hold it. Oh,
so
you've been married for 9 years at this point. And a year, right? And a year ago, you started like putting the puzzle together.
Well,
that is a slow drip.
I know. Well, we had gone to the temple, we knew devotees. And so I definitely saw also like the positives that it was bringing to his life.
Okay.
The love that he was sharing with the world, and just how it affected him in such a positive way. But we started this book club, and originally I said, of course, I'm going to support him. That was the thing, though. All along, I just wanted him to be able to shine and, just be able to pursue what he wanted to. So I said, okay, I'll support this book club. And I have to give a shout out to Rama Devi Dasi, wherever you are, because she was in the book club with us, and she was the one who mentioned wisdom of the sages. And for me, it was like a bunch of like dominoes that happened that got me just totally hooked. One was the book club. I mean, really, really. And so one of the big things too is that I'm a violinist. I'm an orchestra teacher, actually. And I can't wait to give you a violin lesson, because I know you used to play.
I struggled with the violin for many years.
But
looking forward to it.
So I've been playing the violin my whole life, and I started to play in kirtans. And I started to play in our community circles, and then also like at the temple. And it felt like my whole life had been leading me up to this point. And I was like, oh, that's why I learned so much by ear. That's why I have this skill. And so once I started doing that and listening to the podcast every day and reading and then starting to chant, game over.
Wow. That's pretty impressive. So that's great. And you guys met. How did you meet?
Well, yeah. So I was coming off of a really heartbreaking divorce when I was in my 20s. And I was about 28. And really, I was thinking about this. It felt like a puppet, like I was a puppet, like doing something I had never done before and never have done again. I went on Craigslist, okay, because I was looking.
This is going to be good. This is going to be good. I like when things start with that. I'm good. I went on Craigslist. Okay, please continue. I've never done this before. I went on Craigslist. Please continue, Jen.
I had decided, like, I wanted to do something for myself, like, you know, empowerment. I want to play in a band. I want to be the fiddle player in this band.
Okay.
And so I was, in Chicago, and so I went on Craigslist looking for bands that were looking for fiddle players, and there weren't many to choose from, but lo and behold, I couldn't believe it. So him and his buddy had put out this ad for their band. And
That's a Christian miracle right there. Wait a second. You're saying that you met your husband on Craigslist, not JDate or Match.com or Craigslist.
It was in the music section, though. That's where you find the true love on Craigslist.
Well, you find a lot of stuff. You can find a lot of good men on Craigslist, I'm sure. A lot of good people out there. Okay, continue, please.
Yeah, so I reached out, and it was actually the other guy, his best friend, and reached out to them and planned this practice. And then I almost canceled it at the last second because I thought, oh, is this a little bit weird? I was like telling all my friends, like, this is the address, like, this is where I'm going. But I went and I brought my violin, and I got to their place in Lakeview, which is near Wrigley Field. And, I walked in, and I didn't even really realize that he was one of the people. And it was essentially love at first sight. I mean, we just had an instant connection, and within like 2 weeks, we were having practices of our own, and because we
practices of our own,
we had to work on the music, and honestly, it was just a beautiful thing, and coming off of just a lot of really hard times for me personally, meeting him was like, I don't know. It was like, finally, I felt like I was doing something for myself. I felt like I was finally listening to myself. And we've been inseparable ever since. I think it's been 12 years or 13 years. You start to lose count. But
sometimes when I hear about things like they meet, they have that love at the first sight, my natural cynical side, it always wants to be like, it's not going to last. That's where I go. That's where my mind goes. But I will say there are couples that travel, I feel, together for lifetimes. And that's when they have that special meeting and special connection as well. And I think it's good to hear there's hope after divorce, especially because you guys seem so happy and positive. So I was thinking, well, she's probably just a very happy and positive lady, but also the people you surround yourself with as well. So it's good. I'm glad you reconnected, because you probably were connected from a previous life, and you just pick up that spiritual path where you last left off. And look where you are now. You have 2 kids and you have a little bhakti family.
Yeah, it's funny you say that. My best friend Alex at the time, I felt that same way with him, and he's the one that sent the original ad that she responded to. And I do feel that, with your great friends, it's like you feel like you're meeting an old friend from long ago, and it's you feel it deep inside. It's one of those things that you just know, you feel to be true.
I'm with you. Well, we're glad you're part of the show, you guys, and we're glad we could help in any way possible, and keep doing what you're doing, and keep Krishna Weston people there. Without them, I sort of Krishna Wested my mom. I would just like leave books around, walk around, start saying, instead of saying goodbye, I'd say Harry Ball, Mom, stuff like that.
I just want to give.
Why are you calling me Prabhu all the time? What does that mean?
I just want to give one final shout out to all the people in our Krishna West Chicago community and abroad beyond that are listening, that are here through Wisdom of the Sages, or maybe that we're bringing to Wisdom of the Sages. You guys are great, and I love all of you, and the best is yet to come. So thank you to everyone, and thank you to you guys.
Thank you guys, Krishna Das and Jen Page, and the Page family Bhakti Haribol. That was beautiful.
Haribol.
All right, let's get into the Bhagavatam. I'm going to pick up where we last left off yesterday. Om Namo, wait, no, Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Datodayam Mujirayet. Before we start in the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances to the Supreme Lord Narayan. Unto Narayan Rishi, the supremmost human being, to Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and to Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nasta Prayesha Badreshu Nityam Bhagavat Sevaya Bhagavati Uttamasloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki. By regular attendance in classes in the Bhagavatam and by rendering service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart will become eradicated. And loving service to the Supreme Lord, who is, let me sure this, praise with transcendental songs, will be established as an irrevocable fact. Om Jnana Timarandasya Jnananjana Salakaya Chaksurun Midatam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance, and my teachers are opening my eyes to the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my obeisances at their lotus feet. You know, it's okay. I'm going to do a last minute squirrel here. Is, one of the best ways to really influence the parents. We were talking about this we had this nice, sweet baby Krishna last night. To influence the parents, influence your lover, right? Influence your children is not by preaching to them. It's by being the example of the preaching. And people start to see, like, I want what they have. I want what they have, because we become this very powerful, energetic source, and it starts to go everywhere. How were we talking about this yesterday in the show? It was important, I felt. We started to say we're influencing our parents. We're influencing our grandparents. We're influencing our children. We're influencing our grandchildren. We don't even realize it. And it's not by focusing on them. It's by bringing the focus on us. How are we talking about that yesterday? Do you remember? Anyway, I'm distracted now. But anyway, I don't know. But whatever it is, Krishna Das did it through his, sincerity, and is just being personally inspired. When we get personally inspired, it inspires other people. So yesterday we were on reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 5, Chapter 6. We got to text 3, and then we started telling the story about Lord Shiva. It started talking about, well, to bring it back a few verses, we started talking about what is real, what is authentic, what is genuine. These are the things that are very attractive to us. Like, I want to be real. I don't want to be pretentious. And then we started to get lost in this concept of, well, what is real anyway? I told the story about the naked man in the box. I'm not going to retell it, but if you want to hear a funny story, you can listen to yesterday's show. And what am I underneath the programming? What am I that hasn't been sold to me? I had a good friend. Matter of fact, he's a Zoomer, a part-time Zoomer. He told me, and he's a professional marketer, and he told me that the biggest marketing, success in American history. Can you guess what it is?
Can I get a hint?
It's a vehicle. How do you know?
That's how your history.
I was like, she's a genius. She's a marketing genius. She looked at my history. Are you going through the history on my?
The tabs open when I was trying to start the meeting.
Okay, so the AMC Jeep. Why? Because you're not selling a person a car. You're selling them an identity. They didn't sell Jeeps for their engines. They're not the best engines. They're not the best built cars. But there's an element that you're purchasing into, which gives you now you could be the biggest nerd driving back and forth to work, sipping a decaf latte. But once you drive that Jeep, all of a sudden you're like a Superman. You can take the doors off. You can take the top off. You can give your car a 2-inch lift and put big fat tires on there. You can go off-roading. You're never going to go off-roading, but you could. You want that option because you could get crazy today, and people know how crazy you are. It's like we want to buy adventure. We want to buy an identity. So Madison Avenue marketing uses this concept of branding, and it's a huge thing because people are looking for that identity. So immediately I purchase this and I become a whole new person. Marlboro cigarettes use this. I'm a nerd. I need some. I'm not. I'm a little too zipped up. But if I smoke Marlboros, then I'll be a little bit more rugged. So we're getting sold. So the question is, what identity are we purchasing? And does it have to do with the real identity of the self? Is a good question. So we talked a little bit about that, about being real and being pretentious, right? And we said that we get diverted in our identity by our mind. So there already is. Now, if we grew up in a culture like India, where it's sort of drilled into you what you are. And here's how they spell it all out in black and white. Here's, like, before we go on the road trip, we're going to look at the map. Here's the map. You're a pure spirit soul. You're part of something bigger. You are a pure part of God. You're not God, but you're part of God. And you're divine because of that. Doesn't have anything to do with your intellect, your ability, your strength, your abs, your legs, your lips, your talent. That's secondary identity. Your original identity is your divine spark of God, and you're meant to reconnect with God. And so there's many rituals, there's many mantras, prayers, activities, books that can help you on this path of reconnection. It's why we go to the temple. It's why we listen to the satsangs, etc. That's the idea. And then, of course, we have some identity in this world. But the identity in this world is secondary. Now, in the West, when most of us have ping-ponged away from a spiritual culture, and maybe we didn't even quite understand our spiritual culture, and it seemed a little exclusive, it seemed a little narrow, we tried to find it ourselves, we remain sort of like lost. We're looking at a map now, we have no idea where we're going, where we're driving to, and we get sold different identities. And hopefully we're a little bit introspective. Hopefully we've got some good karma because we had some maybe spiritual parents, or maybe our parents were so not spiritual that it forced us to become a little bit more grounded. And this is sort of like our plight perhaps now. And maybe this is why perhaps we're into this Eastern thought right now, which is has a little bit of a wider gate, is a little bit more maybe inclusive or accepting. And this is sort of where we stand right now. So we are saying that the soul is pure, but the soul becomes contaminated, or not necessarily contaminated, because the soul can't become contaminated, but just like the sun can't become contaminated, but the window looking at the sun can become darkened, can become stained, can become like, you could smear stuff on the window. You could yesterday we used the example of a blackout curtain on the window. There's certain people who are acting in such a horrible way. And this is a judgment call. So we say, well, don't be so judgmental. No, I'll be judgmental. People who are like, human trafficking, we were saying, human trafficking is such a horrible thing to, it is like we're so divorced from a spiritual sense of self that we just treat people like things. We get it. We've been trained to do this with our relationship with animals, with the planet, with the environment. We treat it all as commodities. But when we start treating humans as things, as objects, then it becomes real ugly. Life becomes real ugly, real dark, real quick. And that's like a blackout curtain for the soul. So the sun is still shining, but I've blackened off my spiritual lens. I don't even necessarily think it exists, etc. So we're in the process of trying to scrub ourselves clean, remove the curtains, scrub the window. And the problem is, I got some leftover baggage. I'm carrying some excess baggage around. Right. And there's a fee for excess baggage, too. It creates pain in my life. It creates mistrust. It creates anxiety. And so we're going to start talking about these pollutants on the window that are keeping the sun out. Anyway, we're going to get into them. But first, there's another good story I wanted to tell. And I'm only doing that because this is where we left off. He said, all learned scholars, this is text 3, all the learned scholars have given their opinion. The mind is by very nature very restless, and one should not make friends with it. Now, this goes against the famous Bhagavad Gita sloka. The mind is a friend to the conditioned soul or an enemy. So don't confuse that. The mind can work with us or work against us. And I think it's safe to say we've all had the mind working against us at times, right? But if it says in the next line, if we place full confidence in the mind, it may cheat us at any moment. Even Lord Shiva became agitated upon seeing Mohini, the form of Lord Vishnu or Lord Krishna. And that, right, we told that story yesterday where Shiva got captivated by lust. And Shobhari Muni also fell down from the mature stage of yogic perfection. We're about to tell that story. But I want to just share that we have this concept in the West also about the importance of, what do people say all the time? It drives me crazy. Trust your gut. Trust your intuition. Really? You're going to trust your intuition, people? We are plagued by lust, anxiety, all different flavors of fear, greed, and you want to trust. You got to be very, very careful when they say, trust your intuition. Somebody said that to me once. And one of my students said, you know what, Raghu, I appreciate what you're saying, but, I got to trust my intuition. I was like, really? That is so short-sighted. We come into sort of this philosophy sometimes because we realize my intuition has got me in big trouble. You can write that on the board. I would love to hear people in the Bhakti Recovery group who told them about their intuition and where their intuition got them. Their intuition says, I must get drugs. I must have sex. I must do these things, repeat. It seems like when I do bad habits on a regular basis, it seems like, right? Try this. Try becoming addicted to alcohol. And then all of a sudden saying, no more alcohol. I'm going cold turkey. Your so-called intuition will draw you to alcohol because it's not intuition. It is a strong, strong attachment to illusion. So I'm not saying intuition doesn't exist. Krishna exists in the heart as the Paramatma. That's true. But you got to understand when that window is not clear, we mistake intuition for anxiety. I'm not going to do that out of fear. I'm not going to do this. I'm going to choose this out of lust. I'm going to do this out of greed. And I very easily can mask that with, I'm being very intuitive. Don't tell me. It's my gut feeling. You got to follow your heart. Careful with that statement. Follow your heart. Okay. I'm not saying we don't get Paramatma speaking to us, but we have to become very evolved when we can actually hear. And that's why we go to Guru, the Chaita Guru, the Guru within. There is a real Guru within. We're not saying there's not, but especially you hear this in the yoga community a lot. Just follow your heart. You're the Guru. No, that's not what the Vedas teach. They teach, yes, Chaita in the heart, but also Guru without, or there wouldn't be Guru without. People have had such bad experiences with Guru without. They've cut out all Guru without, and they say, no, it's just the Guru within now. Really? Guru within only? Why are we even reading books then? Right? Why do we read? If the Guru is within, why do you need to do anything? Why don't you just sit there in meditation, and now all of a sudden you're a mechanic. Now all of a sudden you're a heart surgeon. Now all of a sudden you're self-realized. No, we need Guru within. But Guru within, right? I'm a black belt in jiu-jitsu. How did you do that? Well, I just sat in meditation. It's already within inside me, right? Careful with this philosophy. It's super tricky. And so we say Guru without, and we say this in Wisdom of the Sages a lot. I need people in my life that I trust. I need people to consult. I need ministers, so to speak, in my life. I need teachers. I need friends where I value their integrity of how they live, that I go to when I'm in forks or when I'm in branches on my road. Do I go left or right? Sometimes I don't go left or right. Sometimes I can go left, right, middle, up, down. There's so many ways I can go. And I have to be careful because in those times where there's lots of choices, I don't want to follow my heart. I want to hear what other people, where I trust them as connected beings. What do you think about this? Am I acting out of passion, out of ignorance, out of attachment? This is important. We need people like this in our life. This is what we hope to achieve with this whole Wisdom of the Sages community. Okay, so Shobari Muni, thank you, Mara, bringing it back. Anyway, that wasn't a squirrel. That wasn't a squirrel. I find myself when Kustu is not here, I squirrel less, focus more. So Shobari Muni, this is another example that Prabhupada uses, or not the Prabhupada, but the Bhagavatam uses about careful with the mind. But we're gonna split the lesson here too. Shobari Muni was a great sage, and I don't know if this is true, but this is what they say. At certain sages, according to because they don't want to be disturbed, they could go underwater. They had such ability to control their breathing process or slow their breathing down. They could hold their breath for any number of days, hours, etc. It's not a weird thing, and everyone's getting into breathing now. It's like the new thing: breath. Read the book by Nestor and everyone. But the yogis got this. They play around with the breathing techniques, and there's a way to shut off their body so it slows down the heartbeat so much that they enter into a state of almost like suspended animation. So Shobari Muni could do this, and he would go underwater. And he would sit in meditation, which was incredibly peaceful. And this type of jnana yoga, where you could actually go inside and feel the self and totally undisturbed. Now, he did find he was disturbed. Why? Because every now he'd sit there and the fish would swim by and he'd be like, the fish are my friends. An eagle would come in, dive in the water, grab the fish, and like take the fish away. And he started getting very, very angry at this eagle. Turns out, not an ordinary eagle. This was Garuda himself, and Garuda is a great servant of Lord Vishnu. He's Vishnu's carrier. So finally, Shobari Muni, out of his passion and his protection for the fish, said, "I curse you, Garuda. If you touch one more fish, I will curse you. I'm going to throw a curse on you." And so anyway, Garuda did get another fish, and he was cursed, which is why, this is why Garuda couldn't come to kill Kalia, the snake. Because that's why Kalia came to the Yamuna, because Garuda couldn't mess with him anymore. But there's more to this story. So Shobari Muni, what kind of sage? If someone says, "I'm doing 30 minutes of meditation a day," we're like, "Whoa, it's pretty good, pretty impressive." Who cares? He's going underwater and doing meditation. You think your 30 minutes is big? He's doing it for years underwater. Top that. It's not about competition, but if it was, Shobari Muni would have won. He's underwater, but he's made a very, very big mistake in his spiritual practice. And that big mistake is, Mara, come on.
Offending a devotee of Lord Vishnu.
Offending a devotee of Lord Vishnu. Higher than our spiritual penance. And this appears in all the Bhakti Shastras again and again and again. No matter how strong you are, determined you are, disciplined you are, cutting yourself with your body, with your senses, with your mind. Once you make an offense to Lord Vishnu's devotees, Lord Vishnu takes away all your power. Again, become a mouse. This is going to tie right in. It is a great example because it actually ties into everything we're about to talk about in these next verses. So immediately what happened? He couldn't hold that position anymore. And how does he fall down? How does he fall down from his spiritual path? Is it the allurement of a beautiful woman? No. Is it because he sees someone hands him a Hustler magazine? No. Is it because he just sort of like, some type of other allurement? No. He's sitting in meditation and he's watching two fish copulate. And that was enough to throw him off. That was enough to see two fish having sex. That threw him off. It happened to me once too.
Fish?
No, not fish. Monkeys. I was a new brahmachari in Vrindavan, and I was like, I was feeling spiritual ecstasy. And I just left the Radharaman temple, and I was thinking, I am so glad I left my old life behind. I've been celibate now for like, whatever, a month, and I'm feeling like I'm a new person. I've recreated myself. I'm stronger than ever. And I walk out of the temple eating some Mahaprasad, and I watch these two monkeys having sex. And I was like, I'm so disturbed. I'm so disturbed by this. And then it just brings back these thoughts and these samskaras in the mind. I'm sorry I had to share that but Shobari Muni did it too. So anyway, this is the idea that once we make an offense somehow, we might see it, but it will take us down. Whereas if we keep in good consciousness where we make no offenses, we might see so many things in this material world, but we're able to protect ourselves. Now, naturally, a devotee keeps themselves free from thoughts, and we don't dwell on bad thoughts. If we have a thought that's going to take us off track, we quickly catch the mind and drag it back, right? Wherever the mind wanders, yada yada hi dharmasya, glanir bhavati bharata. Wherever the mind wanders due to its unsteady and flickering nature, one quickly catches it and draws it back under the control of the self. Any type of lust. You might lust for a cigarette. You might be thinking, I want a cigarette. I want some marijuana. I want to take some drugs. I want to drink, right? Wherever the mind, and what happens if we have an attachment for those things, we start to think, marijuana. Nice glass of wine. A shot of whatever our attachment is. And then we start to let that ruminate in our consciousness. I remember what it was like waking up in the morning, smoking a cigarette, and we start to think about it more, and we create this whole turbo scenario of the so-called joy that never was, that never actually was, but I romanticize it. And then I'm in it. After thinking about it for a while, then from meditation, from that meditation of the objects of the senses, one develops attachment for it. From such attachment, lust arises. From lust, from not fulfilling my desires, anger comes. This is the stage of the fall down for the yogi, for the spiritual self. So he's meditating on that. Most of the time, you could just look at it. Oh, copulating fish, who cares? But for him, he let his mind dwell on it. And then Shobari Muni, he's a very old man too. He approached a king. He said, I want to marry. You have many daughters. He left his yogic life. He said, I want to marry your daughters. He said, you want to marry my daughters? The king didn't say this. He's like, you're like an old man. He said, well, which daughter of mine do you want to marry? He says, oh, any daughter of yours. He said, and the king had a great idea. The king said, well, I've got an idea. Why don't, I have many lovely daughters. Whoever chooses you, they will be your bride. And so he agreed, thinking, none of my daughters is going to choose this old man. But what happened was he had this ability to change his form into that of a very beautiful young man. People do this all the time. People just, I'm going to get new hair. I'm going to get a new, a facelift. I'm going to get whatever. I'm going to tan myself. I'm going to try to look better and use my currency. I'm going to try to upgrade my currency. Yesterday, we were saying it was called Guys with Game. It's pathetic to try to, it's pathetic. But he did that. Shobari Muni did this, and it's embarrassing. And where did that all come from? And they all chose, all the daughters chose to marry Shobari Muni. Anyway, we're going to continue with this story, but now we're going to use more different examples. An unchaste woman is very easily, this is text 4, is very easily carried away by lovers. And it sometimes happens that her husband is violently killed by a lover. Happens. If the yogi, now that's an analogy to a yogi who gives his mind a chance, does not restrain it. His mind will give facility to the enemies. Now, what is the enemy of the soul? It's whatever sticks or darkens that window. And this has always existed. These aren't new. It's not like we tend to think, well, we live in a modern age. It's very polluted in this age. It's very filthy in this age. There are a lot of contaminants in this age. They're fracking, they're spraying pesticides, there's air pollution. I got news for you. Contaminants have always existed. It's nothing new. But the real contaminants of the jiva, of the soul, are these, and they're going to mention them now. Kama, krodha, lobha, moga, lust, anger, pride, greed, lamentation, illusion, and fear, right? This is what sits in our mind. Lust means I want something, right? It means this whole idea of I want. If I get connected with this thing, this being, I will become whole. I will become strong. I will become happy, right? Anger, I don't fulfill my lust. So, road rage, right? Pride, I'm in a position of power and I'm going to lord it over other people. And these are again and again, we hear these stories about how in the Bhagavatam, especially how even great souls, we become contaminated by these original contaminants. Greed, if I get that, then I'll be happy. Lamentation, why me? It's not fair. Illusion and fear, anxiety. What's going to happen to me? God's not going to protect me through this. I don't trust that my life is in divine hands, right? Combined, these constitute the bondage to fruitive activities. That's why I'm working so hard in this world, right? What learned man would put faith in the mind? Text 6, Lord Rishabhadev was the head of all kings and emperors within the universe, but assuming the dress and language of this avadut. Remember we said this word avadut was a person who's just like, they don't even seem a part of this world anymore. He acted as if dull and materially bound. Consequently, no one could observe his divine opulence. He adopted this behavior just to teach yogis how to give up the body. Nonetheless, he maintained his original position as a plenary expansion of Lord Vasudeva Krishna. Remaining always in that state, he gave up his pastimes as Lord Rishabhadev within this material world. If following in the footsteps of Lord Rishabhadev, one can give up his subtle body, there is no chance that one will accept a material body again. Anyway, this is the, how am I doing with time? This is the reoccurring, it's so hard to give class and read the message board at once. Yeah, that's why I need a partner in this, so I can just feel free to read that message board. When we're serious about our spiritual life, when we say, you know what, my material life is over, Krishna, I am yours. When we say, you know what, I've lived in darkness, I want light. When we say, you know what, I've called the devil, I want God, I want Jesus. Whenever we make that spiritual declaration, and different traditions, it's going to happen in a different way, but for a lot of us, we maybe even came to this decision like, wow, that old me is over. And we draw a line in the sand, just like when Krishna Das said that. He heard a lecture and was like, and he read the Bhagavad Gita and it was over. It was over for him. A lot of us, we're still romancing Maya. We're like, well, I don't know. Maya is sort of cool. If we're still in that type of illusion, that's okay. It just might take longer to learn the lesson. We might not have that first class intelligent. And that just comes from some karmic bag we were born into with karmic pre-programmed desires. We've been programmed. We've been programmed and we've been practicing material desires. So that's okay. But when we start getting serious about our spiritual life and we start seeing ourselves as a real identity, and what do we say that was? I'm a pure spirit soul. I'm part of something bigger. God is the center of the universe. I have some identity in this world. It's a part-time identity. I'm a part-time dad. I'm a part-time son. I'm a part-time doctor, lawyer, garbage man, botanist, part-time botanist. Thank you. I'm a part-time knitter. That's not my eternal position. I take these things on. I can't control my world. I can't control my kids. I can introduce them into a spiritual life. I can love them. Really, all I'm here able to do is to give a little love and assist people on their spiritual path. And that's all I can do, really. I can't make my kids become spiritualists. You don't have that power. You can inspire from your example. The best, you want to mind somebody's business, mind your own business. You know, you want to control you want to control something, control your own senses and mind. So this is where we go in bhakti. And when you get sincere, there's a story, I mean, this is a recurring theme in the Bhagavatam, but when we get sincere, then Krishna really starts to chop away at all our baggage. He starts to strip us away of all our baggage. And in the material world, it might seem almost tragic. And for a materialist, they may look at a devotee, oh, look at this tragedy. Look at this tragedy. No, it's not a tragedy. The bhakta has flipped it all. One example that comes to my mind is the story of Gajendra. Gajendra, in his previous life, was a great king. He was a king, and he was renouncing the kingdom. He's lived a pretty spiritual life, but like with any king, they have an ego that comes with being a king. You don't get to be a leader and a powerful person without having a little bit of an ego. So he was a king. He renounced his kingdom. That's a big thing to do, for people to renounce their wealth and be like, you know what? It's time to die. I'm going to get focused on service to Lord Vishnu. He renounced his kingdom, installed his son as on the throne, and then he sat in meditation. But for some reason, sitting in a little cottage, this king offended some great sages. It was Agastya Muni came and saw him. And because he was deep in meditation, Agastya Muni thought he was ignoring him. And so he says, you big dull man, you want to become big and dull? Become an elephant. And he cursed him to be an elephant. And so, but of course, Lord Vishnu, understanding the greater plan. Isn't it interesting that there's always a greater plan? When I don't see it, everything in the world acts randomly. Everything appears random. We use this analogy of a tapestry. If you were to flip a tapestry over, you would just see random threads in the back of it. It's not so attractive. You got a red thread, a blue thread, a green thread, and they're all sticking out. It's ugly. But then you understand none of those threads are random. All those threads have to do with this beautiful design, decoration that's hanging in your house, of a waterfall, a sunrise, a forest, a mountain, etc. Our lives are not random. As crazy as they seem, as randomly as we get wealth, lose wealth, fall in love, get our heart broken, get betrayed, make a bond, get a new car, crash a new car. All those things are part of the so-called randomness, the perfect randomness that is happening to us. And it's not random. So in the meantime, Agastya, who had cursed him, Agastya is actually a great soul, and therefore his curse becomes a blessing. It's exactly what this king needed for him to move forward in his spiritual life. How could that be? How could a curse to become an elephant? Well, I'll tell you the story very briefly because I'm on a time limit here. He became a very powerful elephant. You got to understand, like, animals are beings. They're people. They have a history. They have a past life. Some people know this if they have dogs. My dog, I have a very spiritual dog there. He looks a little lazy, but this dog goes right to the feet of the devotees and licks the feet of the devotees. He's eager for prasad. He's actually eager for eating everything, but especially prasad. But my point is that Gajendra was not an ordinary elephant. And immediately he saw a pack of elephants. And this is how animals work. They have to earn their way into the pack. There's a pecking order in any pack, and pack animals like dogs, like chickens, like birds. There's pecking orders. So he had to defeat the king of the elephants, and he became Gajendra, the king, the Indra of the Gajas, of the elephants. And now elephants are powerful. They're almost like masters in the jungle. Everything fears them, especially like these very bull alpha elephants. All the other elephants respect him. And with that comes an ego, just like the king had an ego. And what happens when you're in charge? You think, I'm so smart. I'm so powerful. I can fire him. I can hire him, right? I can cut this person out. And there was an ego that this great king had to lose before he became totally pure. We all have some type of things that we must lose. And we may not even see it. Maybe our friends see it in us, but we may not see it in ourselves. But Krishna sees it. And if you're sincere in this path, get ready, right? Don't expect shanti. This isn't a path of shanti, shanti, shanti. This is a path of stir it up, Krishna, stir it up. When I'm chanting the Maha Mantra, I'm not chanting for shanti. I'm chanting, Krishna, you purify me. And sometimes purification comes in the form of fire, right? Krishna, purify me, stir it up, bring this stuff to the surface. I've been an illusion. I've been arrogant. I've been filled with my own ego and myself and my whatever currency I've been using in the material world to set myself up separate and cooler than everybody else. Stir it up, bring it to the surface, Krishna, so I can see it. If I'm an alcoholic, hey, let me know I'm an alcoholic. I've been in an illusion. I've never admitted that I'm an alcoholic. If I've got some other issue I'm struggling with, bring it to the surface, make it ugly so it becomes obvious. Take it away because I've been attached to this thing as me, this temporary identity to my real identity. Cut that away from me, Krishna. When Krishna likes you, he gives you what you want. When Krishna loves you, he starts to cut away. And it's a beautiful thing. It's not an ugly thing. It's not a sad thing. When he got cursed to become an elephant, it sounds like a curse, right? Imagine Mara sitting there knitting and all of a sudden her nose grows into a giant snout and her feet become very large. Oh, Mara, she's become a baby elephant. So this is the problem. It's not a curse. It's all Krishna's divine plan. Whatever you're going through right now is Krishna's divine plan for you. Don't try to outthink Krishna. You think you got a better plan than Krishna? No, he's got a much better plan than you. He sees the whole big picture of where things are going, right? So this is what's going on. And sure enough, when that elephant, the story, went in the water to drink, a crocodile clamped down on his leg. And immediately, what happens with the rest of the elephants? They all abandoned their leader. Imagine how heartbreaking that is. I was their leader. They did whatever I said. And out of fear, they left Gajendra there to die. And then he started to realize, and he started to remember who he was. And he felt like I am so humbled. At any minute, as powerful as I am, I can be killed. And I realized I have nothing in this world except Lord Vishnu. And he took his trunk and he picked a lotus and he offered it to Lord Vishnu. Lord Vishnu came, severed the head of the crocodile, and immediately liberated Gajendra. Gajendra Moksha Ki Jai. Mara, any takeaways? Woo!
Yeah, I got some good stuff today. Don't preach, be the example.
Yeah.
We're being sold a false identity.
Oh, yeah. Don't preach, become the example. Jen Page, Krishna Das, thank you very much for setting that example. What was the second one?
We're being sold a false identity.
We're being sold a false identity. I want to be cooler. What can I do to become cool?
Let go of the excess baggage and scrub the window of the soul.
Yeah.
We need guru within and guru without.
You need them both. You got to check in to make sure your guru within is not your anxiety, your fear, your lust, your etc.
Don't offend devotees if you want to control the mind.
Worst thing you can do for your spiritual life. I don't care how many rounds of japa you do, how many kirtans you've been to, how many Punjabi outfits or gopi skirts you're wearing. I don't care how well you tie your dhoti. I don't care if you've shaved up. I don't care if you've got pictures in your house of Krishna or anything. Once you offend a devotee, it's game over. It's game over. Good luck. Find that devotee, beg for forgiveness. And then Krishna, because the devotee doesn't take offense, but Krishna takes offense. He doesn't let you within the camp any longer, and you lose your taste.
Stop romancing Maya.
But she's so beautiful. I think you should start romancing Maya too.
Give love, inspire, and assist others on their spiritual path.
Did I say that? I like that.
Yeah, you
All
did.
right. Okay.
There's always a greater plan.
There's a bigger picture we can't see.
Sometimes purification comes by fire.
Yeah.
And you can find a lot of good men on Craigslist.
There you go, people. There's a crazies on Craigslist too. You just got lucky there, Jen Page. Craigslist. Oh boy. Thanks everybody for joining us. Kastuba's back tomorrow. Woohoo! Looking forward to seeing Kastuba, hear about his traveling adventures. I wonder if Kastuba eats plain food. Probably no. He probably says, be like, but it's palak paneer, Kastuba. No. My vote is no. Pretty disciplined about his diet. That's why his mind is so peaceful. Thanks, Birdie, for joining us on Zoom. If you want to join us on Zoom, if you're listening out there as one of the others, you can join us on Zoom by emailing Mara, wisdom of the sages 108@gmail.com. Also, I want everybody today who's listening on YouTube. Actually, even if you're not listening to YouTube, I want you to go to YouTube. I want you to click the subscribe button so our subscriptions go up, and hit the bell icon. Hit that bell icon, and therefore we develop more followers on YouTube. That way, when someone searches Ram, maybe a Wisdom of the Sages thing will come up right away. What do you think about that? Thanks for the Page Family Bhakti for sharing their story. Everyone's got a great story, doesn't it? It's a beautiful story. And yeah, thank you, everybody. Remember, Krishna West, your friends, right now. Go get them. Send them a little, hey, I think you'd like the Wisdom of the Sages podcast. I find it uplifting and spiritual, and you seem like a spiritual person. Maybe you'd like this. Yeah. Maybe they got Wisdom of the Sages. You know what you can do? Take a screenshot, tag us. Maybe you can even take a little video of something we said that maybe touched your heart. Share it on your Instagram account or your social media. Tag us. We'll tag you and repost it. And we'll keep spreading this virus around. It's a transcendental virus.